Hey everybody, welcome to Blue Ridge Online. I'm Todd Foster, one of the pastors here. We're so excited that you decided to join us today. We want to take a few minutes and get our hearts ready for what's in store, so let's join the worship team.
So let all that I am be consumed with who you are. All the glory of your presence. What more could I ask for? So let all that I am be consumed with who you are. All the glory of your presence. What more could I ask for? So let all that I am be consumed with who you are. All the glory of your presence. What more could I ask for?
Beneath the surface of my anxious imagination beckons a calmness that is found in you alone. It washes over every doubt, every imperfection. Jesus, your presence is the comfort of my soul. There's nowhere I'd rather be when you're singing over me. I just wanna be here with you. I'm lost in your mystery. I'm found in your love for me. I just wanna be here with you. Here in the waiting, I won't worry about tomorrow. No need to focus on the things I can control. All my attention on the wonder of this moment. Jesus, your presence is the comfort of my soul. There's nowhere I'd rather be when you're singing over me. I just wanna be here with you. I'm lost in your mystery. I'm found in your love for me. I just wanna be here with you. So let all that I am be consumed with who you are. Oh, the glory of your presence. What more could I ask for? So let all that I am be consumed with who you are. Oh, the glory of your presence. What more could I ask There's nowhere I'd rather be when you're singing over me. I just wanna be here with you.
Wow, those are some amazing songs that we sang together. So much of how we respond is out of the story that God's writing in our heart. We live out of story. We're gonna worship together in a couple different ways today, whether it was through the songs. You can worship by giving, you can text to give, you can do that online, you can mail in a check. All that can be found online. Also, we know how valuable community is. This last season has been filled with a lot of online content. We've, in the past, done medium-sized groups. We're excited to let you guys know that all that stuff has been replaced by small group life groups. You can go and you can register for them online. You can filter by what the study's gonna be, whether it's in person or online. So exciting. Don't miss that chance to worship, to engage, to be in community with other people. Obviously, if you're watching this online, you're enjoying Blue Ridge online content. We'd love to also invite you to in-person services. So at New London at 8:30 and 10:30, you can come. Registration is required. You can do that online. Those services do fill up fast. We'd love for you to choose the 8:30 to make room in that 10:30 service for guests. Also, Be Our Kids is back, K through 5. You can also register online. We'd love to see you, the whole family. Our Bedford service is an outdoor worship service, so you can bring the whole family. It's for kids, everyone. Bring a blanket, enjoy that time together, worship together. All right, today, we're gonna join Jeremy in the studio for our You Asked For It series, where he's talking about humility.
In Philippians chapter 2, we find a real world, practical working definition for humility. Look at what Paul writes. It says, therefore, if you have any encouragement from being united with Christ, if any comfort from his love, if any common sharing in the Spirit, if any tenderness and compassion. Basically, he's saying, if you've had any life-changing encounter with Jesus, then, verse 2, make my joy complete. By being like-minded, having the same love, being one in spirit and one in mind, do nothing out of selfish ambition or vain conceit. Rather, and here it is, in humility value others above yourself, not looking to your own interests, but each of you to the interests of the others. Here we have a practical, real-world, biblical definition for humility. That is, humility is when a person or a group of people look not just to their own interests, but also the interests of others. Let me say that again. Humility is when a person or a group of people look not just to their own interests, but also the interests of others. So, how do we do that? How do we live that out? What does that look like? Because let's be honest, guys, humility as defined here is a difficult thing for most of us, especially these days, even in our closest of relationships. I've just hit 5 months from working remotely from home. Jana, my wife, has been working remotely for 4 of those 5 months. And my kids, as those of you who know, I've got kids that are 8 and 10, have been out of school for the better part of 6 months. And we live in a 2-bedroom townhome. That's a tough environment in a normal situation to remain humble as defined in Philippians 2. Looking not just to my own interests, my own needs, but to also the interests and the needs of others. Well, about day 3 of working from home, I went to Home Depot's website and purchased a storm door, something that my wife and I had been talking about for years, but had never gotten around to. But now that I was confined at home, I wanted/needed more light in our house. So I could feel that connection to the outside world. It was my first kind of mini crisis in this season, as the extroverted Jeremy was being confronted with the strong possibility I may not be able to connect with people for a while. So after taking the rest of that day off to install that storm door, it had the exact effect I desired and wanted. Light from the outside world now poured into my living room. And if it feels like I'm being a little dramatic right now, let me tell you, I'm not. It's proved to be a small but important life raft for my mental health over the last 5 months. So let me explain a little bit about how our townhome is configured. We have the main floor from which you enter from street level, and that's our living room, our dining room, our kitchen, most of our main living spaces. And then you can go downstairs to our basement, which is finished, and it's kind of our movie watching space, our family activities room, my workshop. Or from that main ground level floor, you can go upstairs to our second level where our 2 bedrooms are located. Well, with Jana and myself both working from home, she turned a corner of the basement into her office, and I took the main floor as my office while we were both working. Now, Jana's paid job ends at around noon each day, and this is where the problems tend to arise. So in my head, I know it's not fair of me to take up the main floor and try to work and expect Jana and the girls to stay in the basement or go to their bedrooms while I work the rest of my day. And while my head knows this, my heart wants and desires that light-filled, soul-warming space that's ushered in through my precious storm door on that main floor. And it loathes being banished into that dark, claustrophobic basement. And so I would be lying if I claimed that the part of me that wants to look only to my own interests hasn't thrown some fits in this season as I've walked into that dungeon. And I know the right thing to do. I know it's selfish of me not to go downstairs. But in this season of Corona, as it's extended from just weeks into months, to consider their needs and not just my own gets more and more difficult. And I care for them. I love them. I say I want what's best for them. And so now in this same season, to respond out of humility that doesn't just look to my own needs, but looks to the needs of other people that I don't know, that I don't have the same relational connection with, to place other people's interests, other people's needs above my own, who are acting in ways I don't always agree with, who are often doing things I can't condone, to place their rights above my own, honestly, at times feels wrong. Feels like time and time again, I'm being asked to take hold of that short end of the stick. And I know for many of us, we feel the exact same way. I know that God is teaching many of us about humility in a new way. I know this because, you see, a couple of months ago, we asked you a few questions. The first question we asked, we said, what are you struggling with? Second question is, what are questions you've been asking a lot lately? And the third, what is something that God has been teaching you? And we received several hundred responses. And up until this point in the series, we've been primarily dealing with the first 2 questions. But today, I want to look at an answer to the question, what is God teaching you, that became a theme. See, around here at Blue Ridge, one of the things we look for is called convergence. That is, what God is doing inside of some of us is probably and most likely a clue of something he wants to do or see happen inside of many of us. And what some of us said God was teaching us revolved around this idea, this theme of humility, not just looking to our own interests, our own needs, but also the interests of others. So today I want to look at a moment in Jesus' life when all of these things converge. Jesus and his disciples are confronted with a group of people who Jesus had called out many times, a group of people that Jesus vehemently disagreed with, who acted and lived in immoral ways, ways that are contrary to the kingdom that Jesus was introducing. A group who's asking Jesus and his disciples to do something that violates their rights. And how Jesus has asked the disciples, those people who are following him, those people that are being made like him, those people who are on mission with him, how he asks his disciples to respond with humility. So if you have a Bible, would you open up to Matthew 17? And we'll start reading in verse 24. It says this: After Jesus and his disciples arrived in Capernaum, the tax collectors of the 2 drachma temple tax came to Peter and asked, "Doesn't your teacher pay the temple tax?" So, a little geography lesson here. The main sections of ancient Israel's land during Jesus' day sat between several bodies of water. To the west, you had the Mediterranean Sea. And then starting on the east, moving from north to south, you had the Sea of Galilee. From the Sea of Galilee flows the Jordan River south until it reaches the Dead Sea. On the north side of the Dead Sea to the west sat the city of Jerusalem. This is where the temple was built to worship God, where it resided. And it was also the city where Jesus would eventually be crucified. And now, here in Matthew 17, we read that Jesus and his disciples are in the northeastern part of Israel, on the north shore of the Sea of Galilee in the city of Capernaum. And it's here that a group of people are collecting taxes for the maintenance and the upkeep of the temple in Jerusalem. So just to be clear, this was not a Roman tax, but a Jewish tax. It was based loosely on the Jewish law found in the book of Exodus, part of the Jewish scriptures, what we call our Old Testament. So these folks were not your classic tax collectors in the New Testament that everyone's always talking about those tax collectors who were seen as traitors, working for the Romans, exploiting their own people. These tax collectors were a very patriotic group, supporters of Jerusalem and Israel, supporters of the temple, and who expected Israelites all throughout the homeland and beyond to take part in supporting the temple services. But it doesn't mean that they were any more moral. The temple at this time and the systems that support or surrounded and supported the temple in Jerusalem were pretty corrupt, run by the religious elite. And at the very best, those in power who ran the temple overlooked things like merchants selling stuff in the temple courts that exploited those who came to worship Yahweh, the Hebrew name for God. So this tax that these people are attempting to collect supported a system and a people that Jesus was regularly at odds with. A group of religious people that Jesus often had some very harsh words for. A system at this point that was working against the very kingdom that Jesus was establishing. So now, with that context, let's once again continue to read there in Matthew 17. Verse 24, again, it says, After Jesus and his disciples arrived in Capernaum, it's the city that sat at the north shore of the Sea of Galilee, the tax collectors of the 2 drachma temple tax, about 2 days worth of wages, somewhere around $250 today. They came to Peter and asked, "Doesn't your teacher pay the temple tax?" Peter's reply, "Yes, he does. Of course he does." When Peter came into the house, Jesus was the first to speak, which, if you know just a little bit about Peter, this was uncommon for him to let anyone speak first. But here Jesus speaks before Peter can say a word. And look at the odd thing that Jesus says. He says, "What do you think, Simon?" Another name for Peter. He asked, "From whom do the kings of the earth collect duty and taxes? From their own children or from others?" "From others," Peter answered. "Then the children are exempt," Jesus said to him. So, what's going on here? Well, Peter comes inside right after being asked by a group of temple tax collectors, "Does your teacher pay temple taxes?" Really more of an accusatory statement. To which Peter says, "Of course he does." And once he gets inside, before he can say a word, Jesus asks him a question about kings and tax collection. Jesus' question to Peter is basically, do kings collect taxes from their own kids, their own family, or from other people? To which there was really only one obvious answer. Peter says, of course they don't collect taxes from their own children. They collect taxes from other people. So why is Jesus asking this question? Well, the implication here is that Jesus, who is God the Son, who had already referred to the temple earlier in Matthew as his Father's house, is declaring as God's Son, "I am a member of God the Father's royal household. And therefore, it's well within my rights, Peter, to not pay the temple tax." But I believe Jesus' implications even reached further here to Peter and the other disciples. Look at what Paul says in Romans chapter 8. He says this, "The Spirit himself testifies with our spirit that we are God's children. Now, if we are God's children, then we are heirs, heirs of God and co-heirs with Christ." Jesus is also saying, Peter, as a disciple of mine, you and the rest of my followers are also a part of God's royal household. And therefore, Peter, you also have full rights as sons and daughters. And so it's well within your rights, Peter, not to pay this temple tax. But Jesus didn't stop there. He continues in verse 27, "But so that we may not cause offense." Let me read that again. "But so that we may not cause offense, go to the lake and throw out your line. Take the first fish you catch, open its mouth, and you will find a 4 drachma coin. Take it and give it to them for my tax and yours." Jesus, with a very simple question, sets up a very real tension we all feel. This is a broken system that's taking advantage of people. And this system supports people I have spoken out against. Peter, myself, you, and the other disciples all have the right as part of God's royal family not to pay this tax. But so that we may not cause offense, I'm going to ask you not to respond from your rights, but out of humility. Not to look just to your own needs, your own interests, Peter, but also the needs and the interests of others. You see, Jesus understood the power of humility. He understood what he had the right to do, but yet he knew what was right to do. He was there to establish his upside down kingdom, and he was there to prepare his followers like Peter, to share the message of the good news of the kingdom of God with as many people after he was gone. And he knew there were all sorts of side issues that could distract, that could cause others who needed to hear the message to prematurely shut down. Because of this, the disciples, if not made aware, could act in unnecessarily offensive ways. He knew there were all sorts of small hills like their rights that he and his disciples could die on. But this was the perfect opportunity to point out to Peter and to Jesus' other followers the how and the why he wanted them to respond in moments like these when they arose in the future. Because you see, there was another hill that Jesus needed to die on. And that hill was much bigger and had far larger implications than this little temple tax. But to do what you have the right not to do requires what? humility. Not just looking to your own interests, your own needs, but also the needs of others, which can feel impossible at times, especially nowadays. And that's why I love what happens next. Reread with me verse 27 in Matthew 17. He says this, "But so that we may not cause offense, go to the lake and throw out your line. Take the first fish you catch, open its mouth, and you will find a 4 drachma coin, a $500 coin. Take it and give it to them for my tax and yours." Now, Jesus could have just given him this coin, right? He could have just pulled this money from the money that people had given to support his ministry. We know that the disciples had a treasurer. His name was Judas. Other places in the Gospels, we're told that there were wealthy women who had supported Jesus' ministry through the years. So why does Jesus have Peter go and get a coin worth around $500 in such a miraculously odd, unconventional fashion? Well, I can't say for certain, but here's my take. You see, I believe Jesus wanted this moment to be seared in the memories of Peter and the other disciples, the other followers. I believe he wanted them to remember how miraculously and unexpectedly he would provide for them in the future as moments like these arose. When they had the right to act one way, but for the sake of the gospel, the good news that Jesus came, he died, and he was resurrected 3 days later, that they chose to respond in humility. That when they chose to respond as not to unnecessarily offend, when they chose to not just look to their own needs, but also the needs of others, when they chose the path of humility for the sake of the good news, that God would provide for them in miraculous and unexpected ways, to give them exactly what they needed to live in such a way as to not just look to their own needs, their own interests, but also the needs of others. See, I believe Jesus wanted this moment seared into their memory because humility, looking not just to our own interests, our own needs, but also the needs of others, was going to be so vital in opening up people to the good news that Jesus came and died for them. You see, Jesus' focus wasn't on this small hill with its small debt of the temple tax that he had the right not to pay. His focus was on a much larger hill and a much larger debt. The debt of Peter's sins, the debt of the temple tax collector's sins, the debt of our sins, the debt he had the full right not to pay, but chose the path of humility for us. And therefore, Jesus was asking his disciples to choose the path of humility for the sake of others. So let's bring this all home. I don't think I need to point out all the ways in this season in which we can call for our own rights and what we deserve. I don't think it's hard to make a case for all the ways people could be wronging us. I don't think it's very difficult in our daily lives to interact with people who clearly only have their best interests in mind. And it's full well within our rights to die on those small hills and possibly shut people off to the message of that big hill that Jesus was willing to march up and die for them and die for us. So if we're willing to embrace a humility that places their needs, their wants, their need for the gospel, their need for Jesus above our rights, I promise you, in this season, we will watch God provide for us in miraculous, unexpected ways. And so I want to end all of this with one simple question. What is a need of mine that I have placed above the need of someone else? Let me ask that question again. What is a need of mine that I have placed above somebody else? What would happen if a group of people in our neighborhoods, in our city, in our state, that identified themselves as followers of Jesus started placing those things, those needs of ours, lower so that we could place the needs of others above our own.
You came to the world you created, trading your crown for a cross. You willingly died, your innocent life paid the cost. Counting your status as nothing, the King of all kings came to serve, washing my feet, covering me with your love. If more of you means less of me, take everything, 'cause all of you is all I need, so take everything. You are my life and my treasure, the one that I can't live without. Here at your feet, my desires and dreams I laid out. Oh, here at your feet, my desires and dreams I laid out. If more of you means less of me, take everything, 'cause all of you is all I need. Take everything. If more of you is less of me, take everything, 'cause all of you is all I need. Take everything, oh Lord. Change me like only you can, and here with my heart in your hands. So Father, I pray, make me more like Jesus. This world is dying to know who you are. You've shown us the way to your heart. So Father, I pray, make me more like Jesus, more like Jesus. I pray, make me more like Jesus. Whoa, if more of you means less of me, take everything, 'cause all of you is all I need, so take everything. If more of you means less of me, take everything, 'cause all of you is all I need. Take everything, 'cause all my life you have been faithful, and all my life you have been so, so good. With every breath that I am able, oh, I will sing of the goodness of God. 'Cause all my life life you have been faithful. And all my life you have been so good, yeah. With every breath that I am able, oh, I will sing of the goodness of God. Your goodness is running after, it's running after me. Your goodness is running after, it's running after me. With my life laid down, I'm surrendered now. I give you everything. Your goodness is running after, it's running after me. Your goodness is running after, it's running after me. Your goodness is running after, it's running after me. With my life laid down, I'm surrendered now. I give you everything. Your goodness is running after, it's running after me. And all my life you have been faithful. And all my life you have been so good, yeah. With every breath that I am able, oh, I will sing of the goodness of God.
Wow, what a powerful moment. What an opportunity we have to reflect the heart of Jesus. If God opposes the proud, gives grace to the humble, what would that look like if we all together leaned in? Imagine the influence, the picture that we could paint for the world. Lean into it, be humble. Hope you have an amazing week.